Alright, I'm going to do this video as a decode specifically on the movie Kontakt. The symbolism of time and water in the movie. What I think the movie is actually representing, and how it describes the Y machine, or it's describing how reality works. If you've seen my other videos, a lot of this is probably going to be a repeat, but this is going to be specifically about Kontakt. And on the background here, we got a new lever puller. Remember I had the light right picture of the lever puller guy, the little troll guy? This is the lever puller in this movie, in Kontakt. He's the lever puller. He's like this crazy Christian guy. I'll show you a clip later, but he's a crazy Christian who believes the Bible's true, and he blows up the machine. He says, "Are these the people you want talking to your God for you?" And he blows up the machine. And what this is supposed to represent is, to these people, an end to the cycle, an end to the Y machine, a natural resolution of an organic cycle of this illusion of what is not, of this experience of opposite life in the Y machine. Like I said, to them, when they see Christ or God, they don't recognize him. It looks like death to them. It looks like something opposite. So these people that are trying to do the right thing and accept reality as it is, without a Y, without a Y, just as the way things are, a natural cycle and a proper way to behave and conduct yourself regardless of the material data set and regardless of how other people behave. But they see this view of God and reality as suicidal. They see it as death. That's what it looks like to them. They don't want to leave. They can't leave. The dark adepts, the masters of reality, are the ones who never left the Y machine. So this guy here who blows up the machine, this Christian guy, crazy Christian guy, he's lever puller. In this movie, he's the lever puller. Okay? I'm going to show you something else. Before we go straight into Kontakt, I'm going to show you this clip from Monty Python in the Search for the Holy Grail. Okay? Now, you'll see that King Arthur has the sun on his chest. And the guy representing the devil with the goat horns and everything, he represents the devil, or the sun and the moon. You could say John Cleese, the dark adept with the horns, represents the moon. And I wouldn't say that, whatever his name is, Graham Chapman, King Arthur, I would not say that he represents God. I would just say they represent the sun and the moon as positive and negative aspects of man, or up and down orientations. Okay, and they're searching for the Holy Grail. There's no sound to this, so I'm just going to let it run. They're searching for the Holy Grail. Okay, so John Cleese, the dark adept, tells them the only way to the Holy Grail is through the White Rabbit, the White Rabbi. And to them, the White Rabbi looks like death. Okay, and you see they're going into a cave too. It's again like this thing of going underground. Golgotha, the skull. You see they show you the skull. So this is, they're saying this is in your mind. the positive and negative aspects of man, okay? Or death, Golgotha, the skull. That's what this whole thing represents. And then the sun and the moon, or the dark adept and King Arthur, represent the positive and negative aspects of man, upward and downward orientation. So he shows them where to find the Holy Grail. And John Cleese tells them fear. You need to be very afraid. You should be very afraid of the Holy Grail, okay? Because the white rabbi guards it. He looks like death. He gives them this fear perspective on it. And then King Arthur says he succumbs to the fear first, and he says why. So you see, he sends the first guy out alone because he's afraid. He doesn't want to go with him. It's like asking why. The fear and death. See the guy's shield has Y on it? Y on his clothes, Y on his shield. And the white rabbi looks like death to them, okay? But then he overcomes his fear, and they all go down together to enter the cave. It just represents a fear perspective, a down perspective, and a fearless, fear of the Lord up perspective. That's what they're showing you here. But yeah, you have clearly the why. The fear, the white rabbit, the Holy Grail, and the asking why. Okay? We have this guy, he says, he succumbs to John Cleese's fear, the Satan, the moon. He says, you better be afraid. He'll kill you. You better be careful. He was going to take everyone down, go down himself. But he succumbs to the fear at first and says, okay, you just go down alone first, why guy, and get killed by the rabbit. Okay? Okay, before I go into the Kontakt clips, I'm going to do another short clip. This is from Terminator 2. And this is where he's about to kill this cop. This cop represents downward orientation, the 3/2. You see, he has the star, the sheriff's badge on his sleeve, which should be 6 points, but it's 7. So it's broken, it's false, and it's pointing down. It's a downward orientation, okay? And he's a police, a bureaucrat. He's just doing his job. He's operating in the binary consciousness, okay? He also, his coffee from the machine is, you see, he's getting a coffee from the machine, and it's gambling. Wild card poker, materialism. We have the 2 J's, the 2 jacks. That's 11-11, both facing left hand. So they're both left hand, 11-11. And he has the downward pointing, broken geometry, okay? And they purposely show you this. You see, right before the check, and then they're going to show you the checkerboard. Like I said, in the Y machine, at the bottom of the well, they see pixels, checkerboard, loss of resolution, maxed out minimum resolution. Or maybe if their mind is numerologically oriented rather than visually, spatially, they might see numbers, 6s, 9s, 333s, these spiraling numbers. But watch how they're showing you this badge, this false geometric form in the downward orientation. Watch how he purposely squares it to the camera. He purposely squares it so it's perfectly square to the camera and perfectly center in the frame. And then you'll see the water, the liquid water, coming from the checkerboard, overlaid with the checkerboard. downward pointing star. Did I win anything? What did I win? The star, then downward pointing star, checkerboard, water, liquid, checkerboard. Then they're going to give you the left hand 11-11. In the Matrix, when they first tell you straight out that Neo represents Christ, they show you the 11 again here. He's the 1, the 101, the original. Like when you take a college course, Psych 101, Economics 101. It's the first, the progenitor, the original. And it's just like in the Terminator clip where they're showing you the bad side, the downward orientation, the left-facing J, Jesus, the left-facing 11. They give you the 2 jacks, the 11-11.
Happen. You don't exist. Right. Something wrong, man? You look a little whiter than usual. You don't exist. My own personal Jesus Christ. You get caught. You don't exist. You look a little whiter than usual. You look a little whiter than usual. You get caught using that. It's never happened. You don't exist. Something wrong, man? You look a little whiter than usual. You don't exist. My own personal Jesus Christ. You get caught. You don't exist. You look a little whiter than usual. You look a little whiter than usual.
Yeah. Sure. I'll go.
Here's a clip from the Animatrix, which they actually show. This guy pops out of the Matrix a different way just by pushing himself so hard physically. His muscles explode, but he doesn't believe it, and he pops out of the Matrix and he sees the numbers. He thinks he's running a race. Boom, he sees the numbers and he pops out. And they zap him to erase his memory. They erase his memory of the race, and they insert him back into the Matrix. But what I wanted to show really was just the numbers popping up. Okay, now I'll get to Kontakt. I've just had those sitting on my computer for a while. I wanted to show them. But now we'll go into Kontakt. The first thing, I'll start at the beginning where Jodie Foster's a little girl and she's with her dad. And it's all about radios, radio telescopes, frequencies, stream of information. So they do the looking glass in through the window, in through her eye, every time they do a time cut. When it goes from past to future, they always go in and out of someone's eye, or in and out of water, or in and out of a window or a looking glass. That's always how they do a time transition. And this is the first orange drop in the movie where they do a really obvious orange implant. She's on the ham radio talking to someone in Florida, and she says, where's Pensacola, Dad? And he says, I'll give you a hint. Orange juice. Orange is 33. It's the only color that comes out to 33 in gematria. So they do the orange juice, and you'll see later they do the same thing with a pumpkin. They do it repeatedly in the movie. And they do the 11-6 or the 11-9, just like in Back to the Future with the Twin Pines sign. Robert Zemeckis always does that inversion. In this one, they do 116, just like 1:16 a.m. Twin Pines in Back to the Future. She says, how far is that, Pensacola? He says, 1,116 miles.
Orange juice. Pensacola, Florida. Orange juice. Orange juice. Orange juice. Orange juice. Pensacola, Florida. I have to tell you, Sparks. 1,116 miles. Pensacola, Florida. 16 miles. Pensacola, Florida. 116 miles. 116 miles. 116 miles. I have to tell you, Sparks. 1,116 miles. 1,116 miles. Control watch. Got it.
Right, check them.
1,116 miles. I'll give you a hint. Hula hoops.
Saturn. Can we talk to Saturn?
Mm-hmm. I'll give you a hint. Hula hoops.
Saturn. Can we talk to Saturn? Saturn. Can we talk to Saturn? Saturn. Can we talk to Saturn?
Really, really.
We're here all the way to China.
Really, really clear.
Could we talk to the moon?
Well, it's a big enough radio. I don't see why.
Could we talk to China? Could we talk to the moon? Could we talk to Saturn?
Saturn. Can we talk to Saturn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can we talk to China? Can we talk to the moon? Could we talk to Saturn? 116 miles. If we had a big enough radio, you're going to see they'll show that in the movie. The big enough radio.
We're here all the way to China.
Well, it's a big enough radio. I don't see why not. I'll give you a hint. Hula hoops.
Saturn. Can we talk to Saturn?
Okay, the next scene I'm going to show is the first time Jodie Foster meets Hadden, the billionaire who not only built the second machine, and they accuse at the end of orchestrating the hoax, but it turns out that he's been watching her whole life, closely monitoring her. He says, I know a good investment when I see one. He talks about telling her dad when she's a little kid, to guide her into science and mathematics and certain things to teach her about, and even like why he taught her about astronomy and the ham radios and frequencies is because this guy told him to. Then he says, you went to MIT, graduated magna cum laude, just like Walter Parks in the War Games videos. Or Lasker, whoever it was. But these guys, it's all BS, you know, like Mark Rubin. Oh, I dropped out of college. I don't need college. I said, do you have a business school? Like, but yeah, anyway, she meets him for the first time. She doesn't know him from a can of paint, but he's been watching her as an investment her whole life. And he wants her specifically to go into the machine. It's like her whole life was like this scripted, orchestrated, all just leading up to the experience in the machine. And this guy helped to engineer that, to craft that reality of her life. He represents like the control structure on Earth. Like the people you call the elite, these people we see like that seem to be in control of everything. And we're not really sure how it works, like if they're really even people at all, if they exist at all, if they're only on the screen. He represents this, like, human control structure.
I've had my eye on you a long time, Doctor. I consider you one of my most valuable long-term investments.
Joanna died from complications during childbirth. Early testing indicated high predisposition towards science and mathematics.
I've had my eye on you a long time, Doctor. I consider you one of my most valuable long-term investments. I consider you one of my most valuable long-term investments.
Joanna died from complications during childbirth. Early testing indicated high predisposition towards science and mathematics. Father Theodore, advised to provide enrichment activities along these lines, did so conscientiously until his death from awarded full scholarship MIT, graduated magna cum laude. Awarded full scholarship MIT, graduated magna cum laude. Graduated magna cum laude. Graduated magna cum laude.
So it says early childhood testing showed high predisposition towards science and mathematics. It says Father Theodore was advised, what does it say? Advised to provide guidance along these lines or something like that. And then he dies of a heart attack, which leads me to wonder, I know it's just a movie, but A, did they kill this guy off? Or B, was this guy even her father? You know, they're watching her since she's a little kid. They tell the dad what to teach her and what areas to guide her interest in.
Position towards science and mathematics. Father Theodore, advised to provide enrichment activities along these lines, did so conscientiously until his death from awarded full.
Well, I guess I should thank you for having bailed me out all that time.
Then she says, well, I guess I should thank you for bailing me out all those times. Like, she never knew, but actually he's been bailing her out her whole life. He's always been making, like, I'll show other clips.
I guess I should thank you for having bailed me out all that time.
I I know a good bet when I see one. I had my eye on you a long time, Doctor. I consider you one of my most valuable long-term investments.
Okay, the next clip I'm going to do is also with Hadden, and it's where he's also the one that shows her how to break the code, how to decode the streams of information. He finds the key to it, to basically thinking on a higher dimension, a higher dimensional interpretation of this data stream that on the surface doesn't make sense. The data stream, it's Hitler talking, it's static, it's random news interviews, it's everything that's on the TV and the radio. And they're like, what does this mean? It doesn't mean anything. They're just beaming shit back at us. But he says, no, there is a message if you look through all the streams of data, like a fractal. If you look interdimensionally, and he says the key is to think like a vegan. To think like a vegan. That's what he says the key to thinking interdimensionally, or the key to unlocking it is.
Even religious leaders that would like to see me depart this earth. I'll grant them their wish soon enough. Before I do, I wish to make a small contribution. Final gesture of goodwill to the people of this little planet that have given. From whom I have taken so much.
You found the primer.
And this is about the think like a vegan. It is a vegan, like vegetarian vegan. And I'm not preaching, I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm just telling you that's what it means. But I don't think it means you have to be a vegan, but think like a vegan. It's just being able to think outside of this loss system, the parasitic, the fall system down, where everything has to come from something else. We have to eat animals, or we have to eat plants. It's not about necessarily being a vegan. It's about being able to think outside of this system and paradox and the opposite. Like, in our system, all the energy emanates from one point, a single point, the sun, and it's lost into everywhere. And we have this conception that that's the only way a system can operate, but it could operate exactly opposite, where everything, every entity is a sun, and every entity is emanating energy. So the energy is coming from everywhere and lost into a single point, into a sink, into a black sun. And you can't know what's on the other side. From the other side, all the energy comes from the sun and is lost into the environment. It's like an interdimensional hourglass. So on one side, everything's the sun. Like, you're white, your raiment white wool for hair, you're emanating light, and your light is your sight, and you know everything. There's no manipulation, no materialism, no deception. It's just you're beaming information straight into each other, and everything's emanating light, and it all is collected, lost into a single point. You have an excess of energy. And on the other side, you have a deficiency, a loss of energy. It all emanates from one point. So think like a vegan, because that is our material world. It is parasitic. Our bodies, that's the only way they operate. Like how Eve came out of Adam's rib. I think that was because God already knew they ate from the tree, even though it didn't happen yet, because he's outside of time. But they were going to eat from the tree and fall down into time and be divided into sexuality and go into this division loss system. And since God is outside of time, outside of the whole system, like from our perspective, that was before, where he breathed air into his nostrils and took Eve out of Adam's rib, and the serpent beguiled them, and they ate of the tree of the knowledge why of good and evil, and they fell and were cast out of the garden. So, but from God's perspective, outside of time, the whole thing, he can see the whole thing. And the story is like that sort of from our perspective, where it's before they ate and after they ate and then they fell. But outside of time, it's all simultaneous. It didn't happen in order, it just happened. The whole thing just happened, is happening. So the think like a vegan is just being able to think in that opposite, outside of our material parasitic system. It's being able to think in other dimensions, like other arrangements of physics and whatnot. But no, I don't think it actually means you have to be a vegan. I do, though, take eating meat seriously. I'm not a vegetarian, but I'll eat meat like once or twice a year or something if I really feel like I need animal protein. And don't get me wrong, if I needed to survive, I would kill animals and eat meat. But if I don't have to do it, I don't want to do it. I understand that's how the system works and how our world works, but I'm still going to try to do what I think is right anyway. And for some reason, I just don't like hurting or killing animals anymore. So unless it's necessary, I don't want to do it. But anyway, yeah, think like a vegan. And I to back up that that's what they mean, they show you the Hitler clip, where when she's coming up to the machine through like this circus of people, the fairgrounds, carnival atmosphere, there's the people set up and it says, Hitler lives on Vega, Hitler is a vegan, Hitler is a vegan, Hitler lives on Vega. Like, because, you know, Hitler was a vegetarian. So they corroborate that that's what it means. They double it in the movie. So the primer, the key to interpreting the stream of data and the key to properly interpreting the stream of information is to think like a vegan. That's the primer. That's the key to understanding the stream of information. Think like a vegan.
And on the perimeter of each
Line of symbols, registration mark, but they don't line up.
They do.
Symbols, registration mark, but they don't line up.
Pages and pages of data.
Registration mark, but they don't line up.
They do. If you think like a vegan. If you think like a vegan. They do.
Symbols, registration mark, but they don't line up.
Pages and pages of data.
Registration mark, but they don't line up.
They do. If you think like a vegan. Buried within the message itself
is the key to decoding it. Within the layering of the matrix, we have these basic equations. Within the layering of the matrix, we have these basic equations. So with this very elementary foundation, they've given us a kind of general scientific vocabulary. We now have the symbols for true and false. We now have the symbols for true and false.
Okay, I'm going to do just a couple more clips because I don't want my decode to be longer than the actual movie. I'm going to show you the second orange reference here. This is a very interesting clip. First, he says, "Hey, fish." Fish. The guy's name is Fish. Like always, he's carving a pumpkin. He's doing the seeds out of a pumpkin. So it's the orange again, the 33, and it's a fertility symbol, like the watermelon. Like I saw someone mention that channel, The Open Scroll. They do tons of stuff on the watermelon code. But it's a symbol of the womb, the fruit of the womb. And this whole thing is like what they do. Baal, Moloch stuff. He's removing the seed, the fruit of the womb. And then he says, hey, you know what I was thinking? Who would make the perfect astronomers? Vampires. So they got the orange 33, because, you know, vampires stay up all night, and that's like his reason, they're saying. But we know the real reason. They're saying, you know who would make, what's the perfect synthesis of lifestyle and career for astronomers? Vampires. So he's taken the seed, the children, disposing of them. He's a vampire. They're talking about astronomers. And they got the orange, the 33, and Fish. The guy's name is Fish. Okay?
You know, Fish, I was thinking, who would make the best astronomers? I mean, think about it. Who has the perfect synthesis of career and lifestyle?
The science. I give.
Vampires! Doesn't pull in. You know, Fish, Fish, I was thinking, who would make the best astronomers? I mean, think about it. Who has the perfect synthesis of career and lifestyle?
The science. I give.
Vampires! Doesn't pull in. Who would make the best astronomers? I mean,
I give.
Vampires! Doesn't pull any punches. Are you anti-tech? Who would make the best astronomers? I mean,
I give.
Vampires! Doesn't pull any punches. Are you anti-tech? Who would make the best astronomers? I mean,
I give.
Vampires! Doesn't pull any punches. Are you anti-tech? Who would make the best astronomers? I mean,
I give.
Vampires! Doesn't pull any punches. Are you anti-tech? Who would make the best astronomers? I mean,
I give.
Vampires! Doesn't pull any punches. Are you anti-tech?
Okay, the last scene I'm going to do is fishing. So it's the same guy again, the vampire guy. It said, hey, Fish. You know, I was thinking, who would make the perfect astronomers? Vampires. Okay, I'm going to show you this guy fishing. This one frame, this one single frame from the movie pretty much sums up the whole thing. It's packed with symbolism. The guy's in a parking lot and he's fishing. Okay? This also, if you haven't seen my original videos of is the moon a speaker and that stuff, but if you didn't see the moon is a speaker or collector or dish video, this isn't going to make as much sense. But basically what I was saying in that video is the way we see the phases of the moon, the hard crescents, the only way I can imagine getting those hard shadow lines of a crescent is if it were a bowl shape, like you're looking into the cone of a speaker or into a satellite dish. If you hold that up to the light, you can imagine how you do get the phases, the hard curved lines. Like on a sphere, you do get the crescents, but it would always be in a gradient. Like it would go from really dark, if it's a crescent quarter, and spread all the way like to the half. You know, like it would always be a big gradient. And I think when you look at the moon and you do see that three-dimensional aspect to it sometimes, like on the edges where it does look like rounded, you can actually just flip your perception so it's actually inside a bowl and not like not rounded towards you, not concave, you know? And they do the same thing. So they got the water, the pool. This guy's fishing in a parking lot. He's fishing into the pool. And this represents the moon. The reflection of the satellite dish represents the moon. And the lure, you know why? The lure that lures you down the well. The fishing lure is in the moon. It's correlated, it's represented by the moon, the fishing lure. And this is one of their radio telescopes. It's a satellite dish, what you're seeing in the reflection. This is, okay, then we have a turtle on the edge of the pool, and his shell is composed of hexagons, cubes. And that's telling you that this is a model of reality or a model of the Earth, because this is referencing the turtles all the way down. Famous Bertrand Russell story, or the old cosmologies, I think Norse and Vedic and stuff, where it's on the shell of a turtle. And what's under the turtle? Well, it's turtles all the way down. So they're telling you this is a model of Earth, or a model of reality, with the turtle shells, the hexagons. Just like when she's in the machine, it's interlocking pentagons, representing the Y machine, like this journey through life, representing your human experience, the 5, the pentagon or pentagram, and the hexagram representing the material world, down, 6, down. And you see in the fishing line, this is the string of time, and you can see it's in a loop. This is the Ouroboros in the water, in the well. They're showing you in time, the loop of time. It's also a 6 and a 9. Okay, and it's also just like the DreamWorks intro, and really just like all the intros. Look, Spyglass Pictures, New Line Cinema, they're all some version of this. Disney, where it's coming down through the layers of the castle.
Oh, perfect cast. Come on, Fishy. Oh, perfect cast. Come on, Fishy. Big cast. Come on, Fishy. Frank, look at the size of that son of a bitch. Welcome back, Dr. C.
Okay, that's also the yellow submarine. And we have the white horses, the white vehicles. All white, white truck, 3 of them. No, 4. 1 parked, 2 parked, 1 pulling up. So the 4 horses. Yeah, yellow submarines, the Earth model. It's just like the DreamWorks intro. The 6, the 9, the well, the moon, and the fishing lure down the well, the water. Yeah, and the yellow submarine. Turtles all the way down. The reflection.
So you say we are in the Y machine, we are in Y, but Y is what is not. And this certainly is something, isn't it?
Let me get this straight. You admit that you have absolutely no physical evidence to back up your story.
Yes.
You admit that you very well may have hallucinated this whole thing. You admit that if you were in our position, you would respond with exactly the same degree of incredulity and skepticism. then why don't you simply withdraw your testimony and concede that this journey to the center of the galaxy, in fact, never took place?
I had an experience. I can't prove it. I can't even explain it. But everything that I know as a human being, everything that I am tells me that it was real.